Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West podcast and the Stacey West YouTube channel. This time for my first preview of the season, our first away preview of the season as well. And for this, we are joined by Tim from the Wombles Co-efficient. Tim, how are we doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Good. I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, glad to hear it. Obviously, an AFC Wimbledon fan, and you must be riding a bit of a high coming back into League One after last season's playoff success. So talk us through that feeling and the feeling around the club over the summer.
Yeah, the promotion was brilliant, really. So yeah, we had a 3-year stay in League Two after a relegation from League One, where I think we played Lincoln in our long winless run that eventually saw us relegated. But it was tough going in League Two. The first season was tough, and we gradually improved under Johnny Jackson and had a really good season last year. Built on a solid defence and sort of fought our way to the playoffs. And then won it with 3 1-0 wins in the playoffs. But it was a great feeling to be back in League One. A lot of excitement and really good achievement. The feeling over the summer, it's been a short summer. We sort of ended the last EFL season and started the new one because we played on the Friday night in the opening game. So I think we had a 68-day gap or something between the two games. So it was a short summer. I would say a bit challenging summer-wise. I think there was excitement about getting back to League One, but also a bit of kind of trepidation about being a small club, small budget, what we're up against and how we get on. And we lost a couple of our big players from last season, and Josh Nerfield and James Tilley, and it took a long time to see much activity in the transfer market. So yeah, I think by the time we got to Luton, we signed a few players in the week before that. Although we lost the first game, it was a positive performance. So I think now people are kind of getting into it and looking forward to things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that trepidation is actually really where I want to sort of start with this, because there is a lot of talk and a lot of League One predictions are starting to put you in the relegation zone. And I think, again, it's always the easiest thing to do, isn't it? The League Two promoted side through the playoffs. It's very easy to just say they'll get relegated again. But obviously, with you guys, that has been spoken about a lot. And like you say, losing those two big players in the summer as well, in Josh Nerfield and James Tilley, was always going to be a bit of a big hit. So whereabouts are you seeing that kind of season expectation? Are you kind of expecting a big relegation scrap, or are you hoping that actually a lot of the pundits are getting it wrong?
I mean, I think I'd be kind of overly optimistic, I think, if I said we'd be anything other than in a the relegation mix or that part of the table. When I sort of did my own predictions, I kind of divided the table into three and sort of top, middle, bottom, and we certainly were in the bottom third. And I can't see how we would probably get above that. It'll be a big stretch with kind of the resources we've got and the squad we've got compared to kind of what we're up against in League One. So yeah, it's a bit depressing seeing virtually all of the predictions having us in the bottom four. A lot of them bottom or second bottom, but I think it's understandable. I think I was looking back over sort of the last 10 years. I think only 6 promoted teams from League Two have gone straight back down. So that's out of about 40 over that period. So it's pretty rare. But actually, if you look at the playoff winners recently, I think 4 of the last 6 have gone down. So it's a bit more challenging for those that win the playoffs. Obviously, they might not be as strong as the automatically promoted teams, and they've also got a shorter summer and kind of harder to get the recruitment in. So that's a challenge. Resources wise, I think we're up against it. I don't know, but I guess we probably have the smallest budget in this league. And there's other things as well. Like we really struggled for goals even in League Two last season. I think we scored the fewest goals of any promoted team since Southend in 2014-15. So You kind of look at factors like that and you think this is going to be a bit challenging, but not all hope isn't lost. We've got a brilliant defensive foundation. I think we've got a manager who can organise a team and make us hard to play against and hard to beat. So I think we'll scrap our way to a decent number of points, but whether it's enough to keep us up, I'm not sure. I'm kind of a bit borderline. When I sort of first looked at it, I thought we'll probably go down, but then I got a bit more confidence as we signed a few players and the season's getting underway. So I think we'll be in that zone, but yeah, hopefully we'll be above the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in all fairness, that game last Friday night probably helped bring a little bit more optimism because it was a really strong performance. Of course, you'll have a lot of the pundits who will focus on Luton and their shortfalls in the game rather than kind of being able to praise you guys in that performance. And it was, though, a strong performance. And that's the sort of kind of game plan that you'll probably want to kind of go with throughout most of this season. Now, one of the players that I want to pick up on was a player who you guys had last year. And of course, former Lincoln City, technically now moved on a permanent this summer, Alistair Smith. There was a bit of excitement when he first came in at Lincoln. Didn't really hit the ground running in the same sort of vein of form that we had hoped. And then obviously moved on to you guys on loan first of all. So talk us through what kind of impact, first of all, he had last year and what kind of impact you're expecting him to have again this year.
Yeah, he had a huge impact last year, I think. I mean, there's a strange one. Obviously, we signed him on loan, but in a way, he didn't really feel like a loan player. He felt like he sort of belonged from the start. And I remember when he went out on loan, the statement from Lincoln was kind of wishing him all the best for the future or something in the way you normally do for a permanent departure. It seemed clear there were no sort of plans for him to return to Lincoln. So I think we always hoped we could turn it into a permanent. But yeah, he was excellent last year. One of our best players. He was suspended for one game, but other than that, he played every single game. So including the playoffs, 48 out of 49 games. And I think he only came off early, maybe in one of those games as well. So almost every minute across the season. And he played different roles in the midfield because he sort of started the season as a number 8, pushing on and trying to get in the box. And our captain Jake Reeves was injured for a few months, and then he kind of sat in front of the back four a little bit more and kept things ticking over like that, and did well at both roles. He had a good scoring run at the end of the season when kind of no one else was scoring goals. But I think we saw it in that Luton game actually that some of his attributes. I thought he was our man of the match last Friday. He was just very, very good at picking up loose balls in the midfield and being very competitive there. He didn't get to really showcase his, attacking attributes so much, but he's sort of very rangy and long stride and long legs, and he just picks up balls you don't expect him to win in the midfield. And I do think he's 26 now, and I don't know, feels like he needs a home for a few years, and it's great we've got him on a I think a 2-year deal now. And I think he can improve and take to League One pretty well. I would say we've had a discussion on our podcast about who's going to be our big players this season. He's probably the name that crops up the most, I think, as someone who can actually. He had a good season last season, but I think we generally feel he can get better. So yeah, quite excited to see what he does this season.
Yeah, no, it'll be really good to see him truly be able to flourish back in League One now. Obviously, with you guys, absolutely. Okay, so moving on now and looking ahead directly to Saturday's game. Give us a bit of a rundown on how we should be expecting you guys to line up. So by that, we're talking shape, style of play, and maybe even a couple of those players whose name we're likely to hear on commentary quite a lot.
Sure. So, I mean, last season we normally played a 3-5-2. We've played 3 at the back for every game for the entirety of last season and even kind of the end of the season before. So we'll be playing 3 at the back. Johnny Jackson's not really one to spring too many surprises in terms of the formation. So that's definite. But last against Luton, we kind of played more of a sort of 3-4-2-1 with 2 kind of wide forwards or attacking midfielders in support of Matty Stevens as the main front man. So we could stay with that, but I suspect we might go 3-5-2 with kind of 2 proper centre forwards. Tactically, we're a little bit more expansive at home, but still not very expansive. It's still about kind of keeping things tight and low margin and kind of working on the sort of out of possession stuff. One aspect I think will be quite interesting is we're generally a fairly low possession team. So I think we probably averaged about 45% or something like that in League Two last season, and probably more comfortable without the ball a lot of the time. We tend to be better against opponents that dominate. And I know Lincoln are also not a big possession team normally as well. So that will be interesting in terms of who has more of the ball and how that suits the other team. So that's one aspect I'm looking for. But yeah, very much built on defence. Last season we attacked a lot through our wing backs, but they were Nerfil and Tilly, who were the two big players we lost over the summer. So we've got two new wing backs at the moment, Nathan Asimwe, who made his debut against Luton and looked good, and he's very pacey down the right flank. And Steve Seddon on the left, who is actually in his third spell for us. I think he's a sort of steady player, but maybe not the most creative. So it'll be interesting kind of how much we get out of the wing backs, because that's something that's changed. In terms of players to watch, I think one that the Lincoln fans will all notice from the away end is Joe Lewis. He's our kind of towering centre back. He plays in the middle and probably most known for his short shorts that get away fans talking. But he's really good. He's very strong, powerful, but also pretty quick as well. So I think he'll do quite well at this level. The other thing we're sort of interested in is the balance up front, because we struggled for goals, as I said, last season. Mostly played Matty Stevens and Omar Bugle as a front two, and then Marcus Brown came into things in the latter stages of the season as a kind of support striker. But we signed a couple of forwards just before the Luton game, Danilo Orsi, who was at Burton last season, and Antoine Hackford, who from Sheffield United, and he had a loan at Port Vale last season. So I don't really know who we're going to play up front. That's going to be the most intriguing thing when the teams are announced. There's kind of about 5 or 6 options, and it could almost be any two from them. Matty Stevens was the man who got a lot of the goals last season, but I don't know how well he translates to the high level. He sort of he's a penalty box finisher, really, and not really got the pace or the sort of hold up play, the attributes outside of the box that I think we might need at a higher level. So yeah, I'm not sure who's going to start up front, but that blend will be interesting to see.
Yeah, so obviously the big thing that I think you were talking about there is going to be around the possession side of it. Realistically, with you guys being the home side, that almost it feels like that automatically gives you an extra 5 or 10% possession, doesn't it? So with that, it may be more expected to see you guys take the ball. So maybe it's just a game of hot potato where nobody wants to keep it for any longer than 30 seconds of play. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that one goes. Now, to round off the previews this year, for those of you that are watching, you may have seen Ben do this last week. We are doing some quick fire questions. Technically, there's 5, but there is actually a 6th one at the end, which we have been doing for years. So we're going to start off, first of all, quick fire question number 1. Talk to me, what's the best thing about supporting Wimbledon?
I think it's the whole story, really. I started supporting Wimbledon in 1989 and had all the Premier League years watching Wimbledon FC and then the start of AFC Wimbledon. But I think what the great thing is how many levels of football we've watched Wimbledon play at. So I've watched a Wimbledon team play from every level, from Premier League to the Combined Counties League, and so you get to visit hundreds of grounds at all different levels of football and watch a team. So I think that's pretty cool and something that basically no other club has had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously it is an incredible and, obviously incredibly sad for many reasons as well, story. But absolutely with that. Now, the next part is the worst thing about supporting Wimbledon.
Ooh, worst thing about supporting Wimbledon. I would say, I think everyone would say this probably, but maybe the sort of negativity you get sometimes. And I think particularly with us, it's around the kind of ownership and our lack of resources, because we're fan owned and we can't rack up big losses and we don't have someone to cover them. It means it's a bit more challenging for us to compete, which I think is a frustration, but something I'm kind of okay with because I like that fan ownership. But I think that the negative thing is really how much after a run of bad results or we're doing a bit badly, everyone kind of piles on that, and it's all, we need to change the way we're doing things, and I find that a bit frustrating at times.
No, totally understand that. I think unfortunately every club does have that. No, absolutely. All right, next one. Your favourite away day?
Favourite away day? Trying to think now. The one I'm going to mention one I went on last season and we actually lost, but and I'll sort of explain why. But it's one that I don't think probably has a reputation as a good away day. I went to Port Vale away last season, and people say it's not a great area and that and all this stuff and bad reputation. But we played a brilliant game against them. We lost 3-2, hit the bar at the end, and the keeper made an unbelievable save. And just a fantastic game. And stuck around and kind of had a few drinks in Burslem after the game. And what I loved about it was the connection you got between the sort of the local area and the football club. Like every pub we went into, all that Port Vale stuff everywhere. Everyone had been to the game. Everyone was chatting about the game. I don't know. I think if I thought about that longer, I'd probably come up with a different answer. But that's just one that immediately came to mind. It's just a great sort of football experience, and the sort of embeddedness of the club and the town I thought was really great.
Yeah, one of my favourites as well, actually. A Port Vale away game I did a couple of years ago. So, no, I very much understand that one. Next one. One word that comes to mind when you hear Lincoln City.
I'm going to say Ainsworth. Because I remember, I'll just explain briefly. I went to years and years ago. I was in York for a Fans United day when York were having, tough times, and it was one just after that Fans United thing started. I remember I chatted to a Lincoln fan in the pub, and he was so excited to see Wimbledon fans because he was saying, I think the way he presented it was the only two good players he's ever seen play for Lincoln were Gareth Ainsworth and Darren Huckabee. I think was the other one. So I've always kind of associated Lincoln with that since.
Nice. I like that. No, I like that. And I'm sure there'll be plenty others who probably say the same thing, actually. And finally, well, sort of finally, before the last big one, a team you secretly hate. So I'm going to put the word secretly in there to take away the obvious.
God, secretly hate. I don't know. It's still not very secret, but yeah.
Well, secret as in we probably wouldn't have guessed it.
As a Wimbledon fan base, you mean? Rather than my personal prejudices.
Well, no, yours. Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Well, I would say Wimbledon have a bit of a thing with Bromley going back to our non-league days. I mean, they're fairly local, so you might expect that, but probably not one that people are aware of. But we had loads of big games against Bromley, playoffs and all sorts in the sort of the Ryman League as was then. But there was one particular game where we were 2-1 up and sort of heading for promotion with the late goal, and the ball went out and was played back to one of their players we thought returned to us, and he booted it in from the halfway line and went off celebrating. So that was a big controversial incident that, people haven't really forgotten about. So that would be one.
Well, okay, that's again. I think that's one that most Lincoln fans wouldn't have guessed. So, no, that's an interesting one to hear. And those are the 5 quickfire questions. But the last one that we have to do on every preview, and it's a bit of a staple of previews now. Give me a score prediction for Saturday.
Yeah, so I'm feeling. I wouldn't say I'm feeling confident, but I've got some hope going into it, and I think we might nick a win. We're very good at home. We were excellent at home last season. We have, I think, the second best home record in the league after Bradford. And I know Lincoln weren't brilliant away last season. I think only had 6 wins or so on the road. So I'm hoping that we might be able to nick a win. I do think you'll probably score, and I'm a bit worried about your set piece threat, having looked at some of the stats on that. But I think we might nick a 2-1 win. One thing we never did last season was win a game late on, and I always think, the longer these things don't happen, eventually they're due. So,
Yeah.
I think we'll win 2-1 with the late winner.
Okay. An interesting scoreline. I think I can see it being a close game. I can see it being a bit of a tough game, and whoever wins it, I think they'll have ground out the result. I very much see it being a 1-goal in it sort of game.
Yeah.
I don't feel pessimistic enough to predict you guys as 2-1 winners myself. So I'm thinking that, to be fair, I actually think it could be a 0-0 draw, but I'm going to go with 1-0 Lincoln. I feel like that could also be the case. I'm not seeing it necessarily to be goals galore because, again, I think both of our big strengths are on the defensive side of the game. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0 ground out Lincoln victory, maybe a goal a little bit later on in the second half. So, yeah, no matter what, whether you are going or whether you're watching it on wherever it's on, they're not on Sky this weekend as well, are they? I don't think. So, so whether you're there, whether you're watching it on Imps Plus, whether you're simply listening to it on the radio, enjoy the game. We will be back on Sunday for the review podcast, and that will be, I believe, myself and Ben. So thank you all so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you guys all again soon. Tim, thank you so much for joining us as well. And everybody, please make sure to go and check out the Wombles Co-efficient as well. But until next time, up the Imps.